Hey there! Today we're going to dive into something that might feel, well, deeply personal. We're talking about the architecture of cognitive intensity. If you've ever, even for a second, felt like you just experienced the world more deeply than other people, this one's for you. Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. How about you think too much? Look, if you've spent your whole life hearing some version of this, you might have started to believe that your natural way of being is, I don't know, just wrong. We're here to really dig into that. We're going to completely flip that script. We're going to explore the idea that what's been labeled a problem might actually be a really powerful part of how you're wired. So let's try to reframe this whole thing together. Okay, first things first, let's just acknowledge the experience. For years, maybe decades, the world has been giving you feedback, and it creates this quiet but constant loop of self-doubt. You start to wonder if you need to hide parts of yourself, just to get by. And let's be real, these phrases, they're not just words, are they? They can feel like a direct shot at your personality. They're often used to just dismiss a depth of thought that maybe makes other people uncomfortable, and it leaves you feeling totally isolated inside your own head. So let's shift gears. Let's move away from all that social noise and get into the actual mechanics of what's going on. What if this isn't an emotional problem, but a processing style? We need a new language for this experience, and that language, it starts with the term cognitive intensity. And here's the absolute key. It is a cognitive configuration. It's not a personality flaw, it's not an emotional imbalance, it's about how your brain is literally wired to process information, with this deep, natural drive for meaning, for depth, and for things to just make sense. This right here, this perfectly illustrates the total disconnect. What other people see as you being over-serious is actually just your high level of engagement with a topic. What they call social awkwardness is often just your mind working overtime to find the logical thread in a conversation. It's a fundamental misinterpretation of your internal world. So, this leads to a really big question, one you've probably asked yourself a million times. Why do you feel so completely wiped out after what seems like a totally normal social event? Well, the answer is in the huge, unseen energy cost of your wiring. I love this metaphor because it's just so perfect. While other people might be tuned into just one station, the main conversation, your mind is picking up everything. The subtext, the tiny emotional shifts in the room, the logical flaws in an argument. It's a constant, high-bandwidth state of processing. And this is the invisible work. Every single one of these tasks, tracking signals, noting shifts, processing subtext, it all requires a ton of cognitive energy. So when you feel exhausted after an hour of small talk, it's not because you're weak or overreacting. It's because you've been running a full-blown, complex analysis the entire time. And this creates this incredibly frustrating, lonely cycle. You try to connect authentically, you share what you're really thinking, and you get told it's too much. So what do? You learn to dial it back, to self-edit, to become quieter, and then the very same people who said you were too intense now call you distant or aloof. It's a total no-win situation. So, what do? What's the way out? If holding it all in just leads to more misunderstanding, we need a new strategy. The goal isn't to become less of who you are. It's to become way more intentional with that powerful cognitive energy of yours. At its core, this is the problem. Much of modern social life operates right on the surface. It's built for speed, for quick takes. Your mind, though, it's like a deep-diving submarine in a world of jet skis. It's not better or worse, just different. And that difference requires a whole new approach. And that brings us to the single most important idea here. Suppression is probably what you've been doing for years, basically holding your breath, trying to shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. Calibration is different. It's about learning to consciously choose when to go deep and when it's okay to stay near the surface. It's about directing your focus, not putting it out. Okay. Enough theory. Let's get practical. Let's talk about two real, concrete tools you can start using, like today, to manage this cognitive intensity in a way that actually works for you. All right, tool number one, let's call it energy triage. It's all about consciously matching your mental output to the situation, right? Not every conversation deserves your full analytical horsepower. For casual small talk at a party, you can intentionally shift into a low-power skim mode to save your battery. But for a deep debate with a good friend, yeah, you can go all in with full-depth analysis to forge that real connection.
See, the whole point is that you get to be in charge of your own energy reserves. You get to decide what's worth the cognitive spend, instead of letting every single interaction drain you by default. It's all about being strategic.
And tool number 2. This one is a simple but really profound shift in your internal dialogue. For years, the question in your head has probably been something like, how can I be less? How can I be less intense? This new question, it reframes everything. It puts you back in the driver's seat, turning that old self-criticism into a strategic assessment. It's not about being less, it's about being appropriate. So, when we put all this together, where do we land? We land with a completely new framework. By understanding the mechanics of your own mind, you can stop seeing yourself as flawed and start seeing yourself for what you are, a high-bandwidth individual navigating a low-bandwidth world. And I have to be really clear about this. This is not about being smarter or better than anyone else. It has nothing to do with ego. It is, simply and neutrally, a bandwidth difference. And understanding that allows for self-acceptance without any arrogance. I mean, that just changes everything, doesn't it? That need you have for solitude or your preference for just a few close friends, that's not a social failing. It is a highly intelligent energy management strategy. You're just curating your connections, saving your precious cognitive bandwidth for the people and ideas that actually light you up. And this is the final idea I want to leave you with. For your whole life, maybe your intensity felt like this big, clumsy tool that just made a mess of things. But when you understand it, when you learn to calibrate it, it transforms. It becomes a tool for deep connection, for amazing insight, for navigating the world with absolute precision. You're not too much. You are exactly as you need to be. Now go wield it with intention.